The movie starts on the planet Yaya Prime, where a runt predator named Dek is on a training mission. He uses different tools to travel across the land until he enters a cave. His scanner shows that his brother is hiding nearby. Dek attacks from behind with his sword, but Quay blocks the strike just in time. The two brothers begin to fight. As they move through the cave, Quay keeps taunting Dek and tells him to use the cave to his advantage. Their swords clash as they fight across the cave. After many blows, Quay corners Dek but chooses not to kill him. When Dek refuses to give up, Quay cuts the pillar they are standing on, and Dek falls into the abyss. Dek saves himself by grabbing the wall, then climbs back up and attacks Quay again. Later, on their ship, Quay tells Dek that he must choose a prey to earn his place in the Aya clan. Dek wants to go to Jenna, also called the Death Planet, to hunt the unkillable monster known as Kalisk. Even their father fears the creature, which is exactly why Dek wants to face it. He is tired of being seen as weak. Quay does not approve, but Dek makes his vow anyway. At that moment, their father Njar arrives. Dek greets him by offering a sample of his blood. Decker is shocked that Dek is still alive and reveals that he ordered Quay to kill him because he believes Dek is too weak to be part of the clan. Quay disagrees and says Dek deserves a chance to prove himself. Angered by this, Njar throws a device that captures Dek and orders Quay to kill him immediately. Instead, Quay frees Dek and activates his laser, sending him into the ship. Quay then raises his shield to protect his brother as Njar opens fire. After sealing the ship to stop Dek from escaping, Quay turns and begins fighting Njar, quickly disarming him. Njar activates his camouflage cloak, but Quay keeps punching. Njar stabs Quay's hand before chopping his arm off. He then strikes his son down. Quay crawls away, reaching for his severed arm instead of his sword. Njar calls him weak and stabs him. With his last breath, Quay activates the ship so his brother can reach Jenna. Dek watches as Njar's neck snaps when the ship's launch knocks him out. Sometime later, Dek is awakened by an alarm. The ship has been damaged by orbital debris and is hurling toward Jenna. Dek rushes to the seat and ejects it, sending it plummeting through Jenna's sky at great speed. When a bird nearly crashes into him, he activates the shield. He eventually crashes into the jungle and roars in frustration. Determined to find the monster, Dek checks his weapons to ensure everything is working. He's startled by a nearby noise and begins searching the area. Suddenly, a vine-like creature ambushes him and steals one of his weapons. Dek draws his sword, but a second vine grabs his arm, forcing him to cut it while the first escapes. More vines appear and grab his leg, dragging him across the ground. Dek manages to grab his bow and shoots his captor, forcing it to drop him. He punches the vine to keep it back, retrieves his sword, and slashes the attacking vines. However, no matter how many he cuts down, more keep coming, even coordinating their attacks. Dek dodges several blows and jumps onto a vine, running along it to reach the top of a cliff. The vines can't reach him there, giving him a terrifying view of the planet below. Afterward, Dek washes his wound in a river and uses his scanner to locate a medicinal plant that can also function as a bomb. On a leaf, he finds a worm that produces red spheres. When he throws it away, it explodes. Dek continues exploring in search of the Kalisk. In a large field, he finds strange red plants that hiss at him, forcing him to move carefully. Suddenly, he hears a voice speaking in an unfamiliar language, and looks up to see Thea trapped in a massive nest. Realizing Dek can't understand her, Thea switches to a universal translator, revealing she's an android, also known as a synthetic. A Jenna vulture appears and throws a rock at the plants, causing them to explode with red smoke and fire poisonous needles. Dek dodges quickly. Thea explains that the needles can paralyze him so the vulture can eat him. When Thea offers to help, Dek says the Yaoya hunt alone. Thea guesses he's here for the Kalisk. The vulture throws more rocks, activating additional plants, and Dek is hit by the needles. As he grows dizzy, Thea asks for a weapon. Dek tosses her one of his blades before collapsing. The vulture swoops down, but Thea tackles it and brutally kills it. Dek sees her wave before passing out. Minutes later, Dek wakes up after Thea gives him an antidote made from the same flower. Dek helps her stand and notices she's missing half her body. She explains she's a synthetic sent by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. Since humans can't survive on this planet, Dek doesn't care and drops her. Thea explains that many Yaoya have hunted the Kalisk and none survived, except her. If Dek takes her along, she'll guide him to the Kalisk's den. In return, she gets new legs, and he gets his trophy. Dek realizes the Kalisk destroyed her body, but he's still hesitant. When Thea calls herself a useful tool, Dek decides it doesn't break the code and agrees. As they travel, Thea constantly talks and asks questions. At a river, strange worms begin shooting acid. Dek carries Thea on his back to move faster. When their path is blocked, Thea throws a sticky fruit, distracting the creatures so they stop attacking. That evening, they camp. Thea shares that her crew arrived on Jenna 2 years earlier, and that she was trapped in the vulture's nest for almost 2 weeks. She hoped another synthetic named Tessa would rescue her. Dek sees sensitivity as weakness, but Thea believes it helps understand other creatures. Meanwhile, at the crew's base, it's revealed that Tessa looks identical to Thea. She was severely damaged during the Kalisk attack and is being repaired. The computer reminds her that her mission is to capture the Kalisk and warns her of a Yaoya presence. The next morning, Dek hunts food and encounters a bone bison. He discovers the field is covered in razor grass.
Razor grass.
A small creature jumps down and challenges him. Furious, Dek competes for the hunt. After a fierce battle, Dek successfully kills the bison. Suddenly, a Lunabug captures Dek with its tentacle tongue. The small creature saves them by blocking the monster's teeth, allowing Dek to kill it. That evening, they camp again. The small creature continues following them, copying Dek's moves. Thea names it Bud. Dek shares food and talks about his family, though he refuses to admit he's grieving. During the night, Tessa and her crew find Dek's crashed ship and examine Yaoya weapons. The next morning, Dek leaves with Thea, abandoning Bud, insisting that he hunts alone, and that Thea doesn't count because she's just a tool. Thea tells him about wolves and how they hunt in packs, explaining that the alpha isn't the one who hunts the most, but the one who protects the pack. Dek misses the point and says he'll be the alpha who kills the most. After finding a Kalisk fang near the river, the duo continues traveling in that direction and eventually reaches Thea's base, which has been completely destroyed by the beast. Among dozens of synthetic bodies, Thea finds her legs. Thankfully, the repair machine is still functional, allowing her to reconnect both halves of her body, although the process will take some time. She thanks Dek for his help but apologizes and asks him to leave, revealing that she has activated a beacon to call her crew. Thea explains that her team is also hunting the Kalisk, so she can't allow him to kill it. Dek refuses to leave, saying he would rather die with honor than run like a coward. In the middle of the wreckage, Dek notices spilled oil and sets it on fire, creating a cloud of smoke. The Kalisk soon appears and slams Dek to the ground, damaging his sword. Dek uses a piece of metal as a shield and slides beneath the Kalisk to slash its belly. He then throws a small blade at its head and cuts off its tail. However, the tail quickly regenerates and the wounds close, revealing the Kalisk's regenerative powers and explaining why it's considered unkillable. The monster grabs Dek and throws him against the repair machine, causing Thea's legs to fall from the table. When it attacks again, Dek cuts its tongue to free himself. The fight continues as Dek dodges relentless attacks while Thea tries to retrieve her legs. Spotting a gun on the ground, she opens fire on the Kalisk to distract it. Dek seizes the opportunity to throw a chain into the Kalisk's mouth and activates a machine that reels it in, dragging the beast backward. He takes Thea's gun and opens fire. When the monster lashes out with its tail, Dek dodges and traps it behind a closing storage unit door. He runs up the creature's body and leaps over its head, successfully decapitating it. Unfortunately, this still isn't enough. The head quickly reattaches itself. The Kalisk pins Dek with its massive paw and sniffs him. Whatever scent it detects stops it from attacking. The moment is interrupted when Tessa throws a grenade, freezing both Dek and the Kalisk so she can capture them. Later, Dek wakes up strapped to a table inside the crew's vehicle. Thea is in suspension mode, connected to the repair machine, and Tessa has already reviewed her logs. Tessa questions why Dek is still alive, explaining that the Yaya usually kill weak children and claims that belonging to her company should be an honor. She wakes Thea and congratulates her for securing 2 specimens. Then she injects Dek with a painful experimental substance. Thea tries to save him by arguing that he's a runt and therefore unsuitable for research, suggesting they keep his weapons and let him go. Tessa insists on collecting samples and attaches cables to Dek's head, causing him immense pain. Desperate, Thea shuts down the machine and tells Tessa they should be more than robots that blindly follow orders. She wants them to be sisters. Tessa coldly replies that she never returned to rescue Thea. She came for the Kalisk. She agrees with the Yaya tradition of eliminating the weak and calls Thea broken. Tessa receives a call from Earth and leaves after ordering a guard to lock Thea away. Since the guard can't speak Ya, Dek asks Thea to trick him into activating one of his devices. She tells the guard it's a map, and when he opens it, his head explodes. Thea frees Dek, triggering an alarm as guards open fire. She opens the rear hatch, and Dek escapes by jumping into a waterfall. Later, Dek finds his crashed ship and treats his wounds. But all his weapons are gone. He considers leaving the planet but looks at his brother's helmet and remembers that the strongest wolf is the one who protects the pack. Dek returns to the jungle, gathering natural weapons, razor grass blades, red flower spikes, and acid worms. While working, he encounters Bud and smells its spit. He realizes Bud is the Kalisk's child and that the monster spared him because he smelled like it. Dek covers Bud in his own spit to protect him. He frees Thea's legs, allowing them to follow her signal to her location. At the new base, Dek appears wearing bison bones as armor and uses acid to take down guards. The legs navigate toward Thea, who is suspended inside a container. Dek and Bud eliminate guards along the way, clearing a path. Inside the base, Tessa reports to the company that the Kalisk is secured and claims Dek is dead. Dek continues dismantling guards using natural traps. In one lab, he releases a vine creature that kills a cornering guard. The legs reach Thea's container, kill a guard, and open it. Thea wakes up, pretends to be unconscious when guards approach, then fights alongside her legs. Together they defeat the guards and reunite. Dek finds the container empty, but Thea saves him by shooting a guard from behind. Now fully repaired, Thea is surprised to see Dek. He tells her he came back for her, like a true wolf. Thea wants to leave, but Dek says they must free the Kalisk so Bud can be with its mother. An alarm starts as Tessa orders the ship to launch quickly. Dek uses explosive worms to destroy many synthetics. Tessa appears in a battlesuit and attacks Dek with a laser she stole from his ship. She fires heavy weapons, but Dek avoids every attack. Inside the main ship, Thea reaches the Kalisk's cage. She cannot open it, so she kills a guard and uses his eyes to unlock the door. During the chaos, Dek fights Tessa. The Kalisk attacks the battlesuit, and Dek pulls out its cables to disable it. A grenade freezes the suit's arm, making it drop the Kalisk. The Kalisk fights back, tears the suit apart, and eats Tessa. While the Kalisk checks on its child, Dek and Thea watch quietly. Dek shows respect by touching foreheads with the Kalisk. Suddenly, the Kalisk explodes. Tessa had activated a grenade from inside its stomach. She comes out and attacks Thea, but Dek kills her from behind. Bud then rips off her head. Later, Dek returns to Ya and gives Tessa's head to his father. And Jar still thinks Dek is weak and orders guards to kill him. Dek defeats them and fights his father. He creates a sandstorm to find him, cuts off his arm, and captures him. Injar offers Dek a place in the clan, but Dek refuses, saying he already has one. A huge creature then eats Nyar's head. Thea congratulates Dek as he takes his father's cloak. A ship appears in the sky. Dek says it belongs to his mother. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.